Thank you so much again for joining us in this morning or afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Amanda Pantoja, and use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Urban Greening Initiative Coordinator with Green Latinos, here to kick off our really exciting new initiative, the Sustainable Cities Urban Greening Initiative. So if we can go to the next slide. And we'll just go over our agenda for today, which will be a welcome. We'll give a chance for the other folks in our team to introduce themselves. And then we'll share background and purpose, some details on our exciting grant, provide an overview of the grant application questions and the selection criteria, some resources for you all, and then we'll open it up for Q&A and wrap up our time here. So let's go to the next slide and now introduce some of our team members here. So like I said, my name is Amanda, Urban Greening Initiative Coordinator, and I'll pass it to Lucy to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lucy Contreras. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I'm the Illinois Community Advocate for Green Latinos. If you're in the Chicagoland area, we're going to have a community gathering on Thursday at Casa Cultura at 6 p.m. So come on by to learn more about this initiative in person. And I'll pass it on to Carlos.
Buenos días a todos. My name is Carlos Matutes. My pronouns are he, him, él, and I am the New Mexico Community Advocate. So we will be having an encuentro on Wednesday, tomorrow night, at El Vado here in Albuquerque, and that's right by the aquarium. So hope to see some of you there. If you have any other questions or want to get into some conversation about this, I do welcome you. And I'll pass on to Johnny.
Well, thanks, Carlos. Hi, my name is Jonathan Fajardo, California Community Advocate here for Green Latinos, he, him. I'm based here in Los Angeles and really excited to create a network of communities and organizations and policymakers and arts and culture folk from all around to move together in this environmental and ecological movement. We're having an LA Encuentro on April 5th, Friday, April 5th from 6 to 8 p.m. More information to come. We hope to see you all there if you're in the area.
Awesome. So if we can go to the next slide, and I'll have Carlos provide background and purpose of our initiative.
Okay, everybody. So if you're not familiar with Green Latinos before now, we are focused on achieving environmental liberty for Latino communities and other communities of color. We have our vision and mission statement here. So we envision a healthy and equitable society where communities of color are liberated from disproportionate environmental burdens, free to breathe fresh air, drink pure water, access clean transportation, and enjoy our majestic public lands, oceans, and waters. And our mission is we're an active comunidad of Hispanic and Latina leaders, emboldened by the power and wisdom of our culture, united to demand equity and dismantle racism, resource to win our environmental conservation and climate justice battles, driven to secure our political, economic, cultural, and environmental liberation. So if we can have the next slide. So this is a little bit about where the funding is coming from. So through the Greening American Cities initiative, Bezos Earth Fund is bringing in $400 million in grants to community-based organizations. So Green Latinos is bringing $2.65 million into urban greening projects in Albuquerque, Chicago, and Los Angeles. Next slide, please. So our communities have the right to clean air to breathe, clean water to drink, and clean soil. We deserve vibrant communities that not only connect us to nature, but also protect our well-being, and that of nuestra Madre Tierra, our Mother Earth. So we're proud to introduce our Sustainable Cities Urban Greening Initiative. And through this initiative, we aim to transform historically under-resourced urban areas into sustainable communities, ensuring that everyone has access to green space. Our goal is to support Hispanic, Latina organizations to enhance our urban landscapes and nurture our communities. Next slide. So here we can see some unfortunate data. Communities of color have 44% less park acreage on average than predominantly white neighborhoods. And those tend to be smaller parks and open spaces. Another issue that we have, especially in our urban parks, is that they are often in our lower income neighborhoods. They tend to be fenced off and closed, reducing our access to those areas. So urban areas with impermeable surfaces contribute significantly to urban heat island effect, 1 to 7 degrees Fahrenheit during the day, and that's significantly more in places like Los Angeles and Albuquerque. 2 to 5 degrees at night compared to rural areas, and that is a significant increase. And those higher temperatures exacerbate our health risks, especially for our communities that often have comorbidities and have issues with our health anyway. And then people who have little or no access to nature have higher incidences of mental and emotional health issues. Next slide. Okay, so urban greening is critical to our climate resilience, enhancing our environmental quality, benefiting low-income communities of color. So these are places where not only are we being able to get out and improve our own personal, mental, and emotional health, but this is also where we come together as communities. So these parks and green spaces are essential to our community health as well as our personal health. And then we look at the impacts of these green spaces on our climate. Urban trees store 708 million tons of carbon and capture an additional 28.2 million tons every single year. That is a huge impact to our communities. And it's not just our communities, it's everyone's air. Unfortunately, we can't just segregate bad air. These are initiatives that benefit everyone, but especially communities of color. Latino communities are our focus. Next slide. Okay, so getting into the grant, we are prioritizing Latina environmental conservation and climate justice frontline organizations, programs that predominantly serve frontline Latina communities in the U.S. and its territories. So if you're looking at applying for this grant, we are looking at organizations with a 501c3 designation, organizations that have a fiscal sponsor with a 501c3 legal status, or a fiscal sponsor with that 501c3 legal status on behalf of projects, or federally recognized Indian tribe or organized under Section 17 of the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934. So what we're looking for is projects that basically shovel ready. Plans have been developed. Project is ready for implementation to create new urban green space, expand existing urban green space, or renovating that existing green space. Next slide. So these are the amounts that we're granting in each of our cities. Here in Albuquerque, we're bringing $1,050,000 total. Those grants will range from $100,000 to $300,000. Those are the same amounts for Chicago. And then in Los Angeles, it will be $550,000 total. And we are working with other organizations to make up the extent of that money. Next slide.
Yeah, so I'll go over some key dates. Thank you so much, Carlos, for laying out the foundation and starting our grant details. So some key dates, if y'all want to write this down, we'll also be sharing the presentation, but we'll have our grant application open up this Friday, March 29th. And the application will be open for about a month. And so it will close April 29th on a Monday. And that will conclude the first round of our application. Then that will commence our review period, which will be about a month. We'll have our community advisory board, which I'll get into in a second, review all applications, and then choose finalists that will be moving on to the final round. The final round will open on June 4th, and that's only open to the folks that were chosen to go on to the next round. And then the second round will close on June 28th. Friday. And then after a review period is again with our community advisory board and our Green Latinos partners and ourselves, we'll expect for decisions to be made in late July. So just please keep that in mind. These are some dates that we're looking at. And then if you can go on to the next slide, I'll go into some details on our community advisory board who will be doing the review process. So there will be a community advisory board in each of our cities in Los Angeles, Albuquerque, and Chicago. And each of them will be reviewing the grant applications. The board is made up of about 4 to 8 local leaders, community members, elected officials, and they all have been chosen by our community advisory board members as folks who are well-versed on urban greening as well as the needs of the community. And so while they'll be evaluating applications, they'll also be eventually selecting finalists, providing feedback on our process, making sure that it's equitable and accessible to community members, and then contributing to the evaluation of our initiative. Some key detail that we think that it's worth mentioning is that folks on the community advisory board will not be able to apply for the grant themselves. They while they are representing community organizations, those organizations themselves will not be able to apply, just to eliminate any like bias or conflict of interest. You want to be transparent about our process there. And yeah, that's it on the community advisory board. I now will pass it to Lucy to share with you all the grant application questions as well as criteria that we'll be using to evaluate these projects.
Thank you, Amanda. So I'm going to review some of the selection criteria that we're going to be using to assess the applications that come in. For the first round, we will be asking 3 questions to get an overview of your organization's mission and objectives, project specifics, and costs and funding associated with the project. So there are 5 main components that we're going to be looking at. The first one is experience. So we're going to assess your organization's history in engaging Latina communities and tackling environmental justice issues. We're going to look at past successes, partnerships, and innovative methods that highlight effectiveness and credibility. The second main component we're going to look at is clear goals. So we're going to see that the organization provides clear, specific goals and objectives regarding environmental conservation and climate justice within the Latina community. And we're going to look for defined targets and outcomes showing a deep understanding of community needs and priorities. The third component is project scope and impact. So make sure to explain how the project is going to directly benefit the community, specifically Latina frontline communities. And we're going to look for detailed descriptions of the project area, including demographics, environmental challenges, and opportunities for urban greening. So we're going to look for evidence of improved access to green spaces through this grant, enhanced environmental quality and socioeconomic benefits. And we're looking for, that the organization has a clear understanding of community needs and that they are able to effectively address some of these priorities through being granted this amount of funding. The fourth component we're going to be looking at is collaborative engagement. So we are looking for evidence of partnerships with local community groups, government agencies, and nonprofit organizations, as well as opportunities for community input and decision-making. And the last component is financial details and funding. So we're going to ask for the total cost of the project, the anticipated timeline for completion, and any other available funding resources that you have. So this may look like evidence of financial sustainability, leveraging of resources, and having a realistic timeline for project implementation. So that is for the first round. And now we're going to talk a little bit about what the final round criteria is going to look like. So we can go to the next slide. Oh, there it is. So for the last round, we're going to ask 3 questions to understand your project's community engagement, long-term vision for the project, and adherence to any relevant legal obligations. So again, we are looking at 5 main components. The first one is community engagement and collaboration. We want to see that the proposed project actively involves and collaborates with local communities of color. We want to see that maybe the community has some input in the project design, decision-making, and that there's partnerships involved with local organizations. The second component is long-term sustainability. So we want to make sure that these projects can be sustained beyond the grant period. So we're going to be looking at what the sustainability plan is for this urban greening project. So we're looking for specific strategies of how the project's going to be supported, maintained, and how you're going to overcome potential barriers. The third component is community benefits beyond grant period. So we're looking for community benefits post-grant period with a focus on continued engagement, programming, and resource mobilization. The fourth component is legal compliance. So we want to know whether the organization has obtained all the necessary permits and other legal requirements to actually begin the construction of the project immediately. If legal compliance has not been met, we want to, learn how these requirements will be able to be achieved with the funding and how that's going to facilitate the process. And the last component we're going to be looking at is local government support. So we're going to evaluate the level of government collaboration for this project. So we're looking for any partnerships that you have acquired, any endorsements or commitments from relevant departments or agencies to ensure that there is alignment with policy frameworks and community needs. So those are kind of like the different selection criteria we're going to be using to assess the different applications. And now I'm going to pass it back to Amanda to talk more about how you can actually apply.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lucy. So I guess I just want to start off with a step-by-step guide, whether this be your first grant that you're applying for, you're veteran at applying to grants. We just want to make sure that we all have we provide the instructions for you all on how to go about this process. So we advise y'all to review the grant application, read all of the questions and eligibility criteria provided in this presentation, as well as in the grant application itself, which will actually show you in a bit what the platform looks like. We're using an exciting new tool, so we'll get into that in a bit. And also then understand the criteria. Lucy just went through all of our criteria here, so just familiarize yourself with it. Make sure that you all are highlighting any of the exciting things you're doing around community engagement, highlight project clarity, collaboration, sustainability, and the compliance that you all have met. The third step would be develop the project proposal. So work with your teams on creating an awesome plan that has clear objectives, activities that you all are planning to do, and the expected outcomes. We're really looking for detailed plans that align with the grant criteria and overall just address the needs of our Latino communities. The fourth step would be then to write the grant application itself. So following the guidelines and format that's on the grant application, and be as clear and concise as possible, but also making sure that you hit all the goals and criteria that we've highlighted. And then if you go on to the next slide, please. And then review and edit. I know this is sometimes can be seen as like a overseen step, but super important just to make sure that any grammar issues have been addressed, formatting errors, and also just go back and forth with your team, consider feedback from other folks, just so that you know that the application is as great as and reflects all of the amazing work that you all are doing. And then again, review one more time, and then do the submission. So review the completed grant application carefully to ensure accuracy, coherence, and alignment with the grant criteria. And then obviously submit the application by the deadline, which again will be April 29th. And then wait for a response. During this time, we actually also advise that you all to maybe prepare for the next step, which again, as Lucy outlined, does require a bit more detailed responses and more information on the project. So in the meantime, that would be a great time for you all to come together and prepare for that next step. And then the last step, of course, is to celebrate your successes. So whether or not you all are invited to join in the final round, it's important to come together and celebrate your successes and hard work. I know you all are doing like such groundbreaking work in your communities. So to celebrate the fact that you all are doing that and reaching out and engaging your communities. So if you go on to the next slide. Okay, so this part will be a little bit interactive. I'm going to walk you through the platform that we're using for our grant application, which is called JustFund. For those of you who may not be familiar with JustFund, it's a tool that helps really streamline the grant application process. And so I'm going to share my screen so that we can all walk through making a JustFund account. All of the organizations interested in applying to our grant will need to create a JustFund account because it is through there that you'll be able to access our grant application. So let me share my screen really quick. Okay. So on the presentation itself, which we'll be sending, we have a link to JustFund. So I'm just going to click and get on their website. This is their website. And from here, we'll make like a tutorial on how to make a JustFund account. So it'll be sign up here at the top right corner. And you'll be going as grant seeker. There is a other option to be grant maker, and maybe later down the line, your organizations are interested in being a grant maker, and that would be what you would pick. But at the moment, we'll be doing grant seeker. And we'll start out by putting your address. I'm gonna put my address so that we can go on to the next step. Very simple, just start out with an email address. And then here you would pick your tax status. So you have options to choose 501c3 or 501c4, a fiscally sponsored project of a 501c3 or 501c4, a federally recognized tribe, for-profit entity, or other. So I'll just click 501c3. And from here, we'll go on to pick tax status. So whatever fits your organization's description. For us, it's 501c3. And also it is 501c3 fiscally sponsored projects and federally recognized tribes that are eligible for this project. So just keep that in mind. Tax ID, if you all have that at hand, I'm just going to do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, just for the sake of you just showing that to you all. And then we'll click continue. And then here it's just like basic information. This is the last step of the JustFund account setup. So first and last name, your role and title in your organization, email is already there. And then ask for the applicant contact info. So there you'll put the name of your organization, what funding opportunity you're looking for. So maybe just write like a quick description of what kind of funding you're interested in. And then this is optional, but you can upload IRS determination letters, pending tax information, just like any funding documents that you think you might need to help connect you to funders on this platform, which I'm not sure if I mentioned, but JustFund, when you do make an account, you will be able to access our grant application. But the really neat thing about this is that you will also be able to connect to a variety of other different funders on their platform. And it just really streamlines those connections. You can search on the platform organizations, foundations that are related to the issues that your organization addresses. And they have a variety of different funders that work on, access to green spaces, racial justice, gender issues, housing, immigration. All of these people are on this platform. So that's a big reason why we're using this platform, is that beyond being able to access GreenLatinos funding, we want you all to be able to access funders beyond our grants ourselves. So this would be a really great opportunity for you all to connect to that. And hopefully that seemed easy enough. And if you all were able to like follow along with me, you all will leave with a Just Fund account after this, after our presentation, which is exciting. But please make sure that you create this. It's very simple and it'll help you all access our grant. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. Oh. Okay, and then Cumbia, if you can go back to sharing our presentation. Okay, awesome. And then if you can just go to the next slide. So these are just a list of some helpful links. It will have here our Urban Greening Initiative webpage where we'll be posting all the details of our initiative, city-specific information as well. We have links that take you to the Albuquerque, Chicago, and Los Angeles page where you get to get plugged into events that are happening in these cities. Any registration to webinars will be found on this page. And we also have an FAQ at the bottom of this webpage for you all to, if you need any more details or reminders of our initiative. We also have the Bezos Earth Fund Greening America Cities webpage, which will have details on projects that they have previously funded and just more details to be familiar with the Bezos Earth Fund Greening America Cities program. They've funded a variety of different organizations, and it's really fascinating just to learn about all of the different projects that they're helping uplift in a variety of different communities. And then lastly, the Just Fund page for grant seekers. Here, it'll help you just get more details on how to navigate the Just Fund website, any details on how to use it. You can go and learn about how it works. And then if we can go to the next slide, these are some upcoming events. So we have tomorrow, the Albuquerque Encuentro. This week we have also after the Albuquerque Encuentro, we have the Chicago Encuentro. And April 5th, we have the Los Angeles Encuentro. So if you're in any of these cities, make sure to mark that down on your calendars. On April 9th, we have the second informational webinar. So it's basically going to be like a rundown, pretty similar to what we provided to you all here today. But for folks that may have not been able to join this one, we'll have another opportunity to learn about the grant. Also really want to highlight this next event too, the April 18 event which is a Just Fund webinar for grant seekers. So if you want a more detailed tutorial on how to use Just Fund themselves will be able to walk you all through how to use their platform. And for all of these, we'll be able to share with you all how to register. Specifically for the Just Fund, you can register on their website, but we'll make sure to send that to you all as well so that you can join. It'll be really helpful just to familiarize yourself with the platform. We really want to make this as easy as possible, walking through how to make an account, using this platform to streamline the application process. We really want to encourage you all to apply. It's fairly simple. And yeah, I just want to show you how easy it is to apply and get involved with this initiative. And that brings us to the main overview of our initiative. I think now that's like the fastest we've done a webinar before. So kudos to the team. I would love to open it up to you all and see if you have any questions. We can use the rest of the time to, go through any lingering questions that you have, and yeah. Okay, I see in the chat we have a question from Rene. Yeah, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My question is actually different from the one I posted in the chat. Earlier, you mentioned the 3 different cities and their respective amounts. I think there was a comment on the LA one. Maybe there was still fundraising being done or some last minute arrangements being made. Is that going to be the final amount limit, 550?
That is going to be the final amount limit. The reason for that is that so the funding that we are providing comes from the Bezos Earth Fund Greening America's Cities initiative, and they have specifically already allocated funding to Los Angeles. They're funding Mujeres de la Tierra to create a park, as well as ELAC to create a community garden. So that funding was already allocated to those organizations, and so now we have the 550,000 to allocate to those other organizations. Meanwhile, in Albuquerque and Chicago, they haven't been granted as much money for projects, so that's why we're getting more money for those communities.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your question. Hey, Sean, I see your hand raised. If you're speaking, I can't hear you. I don't know if anyone else hears them, but. Oh. Sean, did you have a question?
Do you want to maybe type it in the chat? We can't hear you for some reason.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. I'm sorry. I don't know, something's going on with my Bluetooth. Someone's telling me on the phone they're having problems. So anyway, first of all, congratulations to GreenLatinos on the funding. I'm actually going through this in my studies right now. And we were just debating this issue, and I was just wondering, in the funding, are we also, besides the green spaces, are we also like trying to allocate funding for like, like the existing like mom and pop businesses and corner stores within the communities, like, allocating funds to like help them provide, like eradicate like food deserts and things of that nature? Is that part of this initiative?
I think for the time being, we are specifically looking for projects related to green spaces and increasing those type of projects, whether it be like parks, community gardens, urban forests. I think that these projects will indirectly be able to support the businesses surrounding these projects. So while we're not like directly granting money to small businesses, I think that when we provide funding to these parks or green projects, they'll be able to uplift and empower the small businesses around them. So I think that there's I mean, a bunch of benefits to these green spaces, and I guess one of them being the opportunity to uplift the businesses around them.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I don't want to hog all the time. I was just curious because we like literally like before I got the email and got the announcement of you guys receiving the funding from the Jeff Bezos Fund. Like we were part of my urban studies class. Like we were literally like debating like how much, green spaces, like gardens and parks and things like that, how much, how big of an impact they have in like underserved communities. And one of the things that was talked about was like the need for more food. We all know in underserved communities, the existence of food deserts and not having access to nutritional meals and things like that. So one of the things that was talked about in my urban studies class is how there's certain neighborhoods where like these projects have begun for like turning like these little corner stores into like small like Trader Joe's and Whole Food stores to provide more nutritional meals to like underserved members of the community to go along with the green garden and green spaces and stuff. So that's it. But thank you and congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sean, for your question. Christopher, so you have a question in the chat. If you want to come on and share that, or I'm also curious if you can explain a little bit more about activation so I could get to answer your question.
Yeah, thank you. My name's Christopher with Together for Brothers. I'm here in Tiwa Lands in Albuquerque. And my first question is, what is the timeline for receiving and spending funding for this grant? I'm sorry that I might have missed that. And then the second one was, would the funds also include activation in current green spaces or parks, or just renovation and creation of new spaces? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Christopher. So the funding will be distributed in July, and we're looking at a 2-year timeline for projects. Just so that's to answer your first question. And then for activation of green spaces, could you share a little bit more of like an example of what an activation of a green space would be?
Absolutely. Sorry for not making that clear in my question. We've been doing a series of activities in public spaces to really deal in community to resources. And so here in Albuquerque, that looks like, at some of our um, green spaces or urban spaces, how do we make sure community knows about, we do art making and storytelling in outdoor spaces. Definitely, like Brother said, serving food, doing, arts and music, doing community resources. But the whole idea of is getting families and individuals and families, our community, to come out to those outdoor spaces and kind of feel safe and feel like they can be in those spaces. So we have a series of activities planned in green spaces and other parks. And we're hoping that might be something that would be included in terms of getting families into those spaces. And part of it is continuing to get their input on what kinds of ways they want to see those green spaces, like what improvements do they want to have make and get those committed improvements, including right a larger infrastructure plan for parks, but also for food justice and also mobility justice connected to public transportation to outdoor spaces and green spaces. But it's that activation of like doing community events in green spaces and parks so that community has access to those spaces and feels like they're their space.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much for clarifying that. So I think I'll have to get back to you about that because at the moment we've outlined just creating, expanding or renovating green spaces. I'm not completely sure if that would fall under like what of these initiatives that we're trying to fund. And yeah, I would have to get back to you just to get complete clarity, but we will stay in touch about that.
Yeah, and I think that what Together for Brothers is doing, fairly familiar with the project. I think that we can approach our funders to talk about that improved access to open spaces. So really appreciate that question and opening up our possibilities there.
I see Kathari, you want to ask your question?
Thank you. My name is Kateri Zuni. I work with the Center of Southwest Culture, also in Albuquerque. I have a question about what we're defining as green spaces. So a lot of the programming that we do at CSC is based on individual families and farms and people's home gardens and such. So would those kinds of projects kind of fall into creation of or development of and maintaining green spaces, or would it need to be like a publicly accessible green space?
So we're looking at publicly accessible green spaces in particular. So if you all have any initiatives about projects that would help community members come together and convene in a public green space, those are the projects that we're looking for. Thank you. Yeah, are there any other questions? I'm trying to go through the chat, but if folks want to raise their hand and answer the question, ask a question.
Hey Amanda, this is Cumbia. Did you see the question from Star Woods?
Yeah, okay, I see it. Can the funding be used towards land acquisition to create a new park or only for development of a new park where the land is already owned by the long-term steward? So land acquisition would fall into creating and expanding on a green spaces. So yeah, that would be eligible for a grant.
And then there was another question from Lynn Sagramoso about the opportunity to pitch projects. I think that we will actually be having a couple of webinars where we'll be able to take a look at your projects. Capacity assistance is definitely part of what we're doing here.
Yeah, and we see that being having opportunity for that on the April 9th webinar. While we will be giving, again, an overview of our initiative, we also want it to be something like this where we can ask questions. And by that time, the grant application will be open already. So I expect that there will be questions even about how to use the application and details on that. So if you want to come back and ask those questions or go over details, please make sure to come through the April 9th webinar, and you can always send us an email. So we'll be sharing like contact details after this webinar.
I did want to talk one thing that I don't believe we've discussed just yet. So because this is a two-part application process, that first part, as Amanda showed everybody, is going to be very easy. We're very excited to work with Just Fund as a platform because we think that really reduces barriers to entry with applying for this. The second round is going to be a lot more intensive. It's going to have a lot more of budget planning, project planning. We understand that some of your organizations are very small. We don't want to discourage you from being able to do this work. So we will have stipends available for smaller community-based organizations to help offset some of the time and effort that's going to go into that second round of application.
Yeah, are there any other questions? Thank you so much for bringing that up, Carlos. Yes, we do have resources for folks to hire maybe someone to look at financials or get anything like that, more of the technical details. We do offer resources. So want to make sure that, like Carlos says, we lower the barriers and obstacles to this grant. We want to make it accessible to you all. So that's available. And yeah, are there any other questions? Give a couple more seconds if anybody has a burning question. If not, we can end a bit earlier. I'm happy to grant you all like 15 more minutes of your time than expected. So thank you all so much for joining us on this kickoff and being here to learn about our initiative. We're here to answer any questions throughout the grant application process. Remember, it opens this Friday. And keep in touch. Please stay up to date with anything we post on our Instagram or emails. We'll be sharing a lot of information throughout the coming months about this initiative, but we're excited to have you all here and looking forward to seeing you all apply.
Please feel free. The links to each of the local projects in Chicago, in Los Angeles, and in Albuquerque have your community advocates' contact information. Please feel free to reach out to each of us individually with any specific questions or any ways that we can help out. Please do not hesitate to use that contact info.
Thank you, everyone. I look forward to reading y'all's applications.
Bye, take care. Have a good rest of your day.